Reporting now for the basic duty of helping us understand what's going on in Washington and with the criminal indictment of Donald Trump, here's the Hill columnist Kristin Tate and former Miami Beach Mayor Philip Levine. Thanks to both of you for joining us. We have to hit this Trump news first. Philip, obviously we have not seen details on the charges from DA Alvin Bragg, but based on everything we know, this is the Stormy Daniels case, saying that money paid to buy her silence was in fact a campaign contribution and was not properly noted. It was described as legal services, where we assume the DA is going to say it was something else. What do you make of this as a legal matter and as a political matter for the country?
James, I'm not a lawyer, I have no legal training, but I can tell you this. I'm sure we could hear all the way from Mar-a-Lago someone screaming, "Where's my Roy Cohn?" No question about that from former President Trump. I believe in what I hear is that this is
meaning you think he needs a better lawyer than he has?
I think he needs the best right now. Now, we don't know if this is just Stormy Daniels or are there many business infractions here that border on a federal crime. I don't know that what's all, but I do know one thing. It's certainly garnering sympathy for former President Trump. And I believe I hear it from people in the center that just they feel a little bit like, listen, Attorney Bragg, New York City's not safe. You were putting away Jose Alba, the bodega owner, and now you're kind of going after the former president for these infractions that, for some reason, don't seem to rise to a level. Who knows how this is going to shake out? But the reality is that I think there's sympathy gaining, and it's unfortunate that this is really taking place. How do we get him out of Florida? Let's see if he goes on Tuesday. I think you could have another Elian Gonzalez situation.
Yikes. Kristin, not sure I see an Elian Gonzalez situation. This question of the strength of this legal case, true, we haven't seen it, but if this is trying to dress this up into a campaign finance violation, I'm not aware that this has ever worked in court. What do you make of this charge from DA Bragg?
Yeah, this is obviously just a political stunt and a political hit job by leftists who are foaming at the mouth to take out the leader of their political opposition via the justice system. These liberals, they screech constantly, James, about threats to democracy, but they have no regard for fairness, and they don't care if the country's ripped apart at the seams. Now, I will say that I suspect this indictment will help Trump tremendously in the primary because it is going to rally conservative voters around him. However, it would hurt him in a general election. There aren't a whole lot of independent voters out there who already think that Trump is too bombastic and kind of unstable, who will suddenly be motivated to vote for him because of this indictment. And that is exactly what the Democrats and the media want. They would love for Trump to be the nominee this time around. Last time, they beat him with an uninspiring, elderly career politician who can barely get through a coherent sentence in the English language. That they think they can do it again. So this is the plan. They want Trump to be the nominee. The last thing they want is to run against Ron DeSantis.
Okay, I think that's probably right. At the margin, probably helps Trump in the primary, probably hurts him if he ends up being the general election candidate. I want to switch now to our current president, the man actually responsible for Washington right now, Philip. And this is, I think, unprecedented. The president who will not negotiate. He's saying, Congress, you have to give me authority to go beyond the 31+ trillion in debt the U.S. government currently holds. But he's not willing to concede anything.
Yeah, I think that lack of negotiation is in itself a negotiation, and I think it's posturing. I think obviously the government, God willing, is not going to shut down. But the one thing we do know is that there's been tremendous government spending. We're trying to rein in inflation. I mean, this PPP fraud money, I call it the Gucci slide LVMH bill, okay, with all the money that's poured out there. It's so ridiculous. We've had the supply chain problem. Then, of course, we've had oil flying up. So there is and the Fed has raised these interest rates. So we need to slow this a bit.
Okay, so you think it is a negotiating
Absolutely.
position. The president ends up conceding some spending reforms to get it through.
Absolutely.
Okay. That makes me feel better. Kristin, what are you forecasting here for the spring as we get to the end of this debt limit fight? We hope it's the end.
I think that the Biden administration is hell-bent on spending as much money as they can. They will do anything to basically destroy the economy, and it's already happening. And a lot of Americans don't necessarily care about this because they're reading other things in the news, and they just don't think they're going to pay for any of this, but we're already paying for it through inflation. Everything is still more expensive, and that's why the media wants to focus on this Trump indictment, too, because they don't want to talk about the economy, because if the election becomes about the economy, the Democrats are doomed.
That's right. We're fair and balanced. We cover both stories. Thanks, Kristin. We'll be back in a moment. Okay, Kristin, I wanted to ask you about that specifically because it seems to me there's an enormous, call it the commie discount on the shares of TikTok. This company would be worth so much more if it was based in the United States, trading on a U.S. exchange. The fact that the Chinese government will not allow this suggests to me this is about more than money, that they do see this as a strategic asset.
Of course. And look, James, I would actually love to ban TikTok altogether in the United States, and not just because it's a Chinese spy op, but also because it's just warping the minds of young people by constantly spoon-feeding them this brain-rotting garbage. I mean, kids and young people are spending hours every single day watching sludge, like videos of adults telling them that they can change their genders and all the rest of it. Kids and teens are becoming dumber and they're becoming brainwashed because of this app. The problem, though, is that the Restrict Act is not just aimed at banning TikTok. It's aimed at giving the federal government all kinds of powers to control the American population. This legislation would give federal authorities to essentially ban all kinds of businesses that have any kind of loose ties to countries that the Biden administration alone determines or decides are adversaries. It also gives officials rights to punish Americans and essentially police and restrict speech online. So I just keep coming back to the question, do we really want the federal government to have these broad powers, and do we trust them to use them in such a narrow way that they only focus on restricting the CCP's power via TikTok? And I just don't think that we can trust them with that power.
Yeah, these are difficult questions. I think TikTok is special because it's based in China. And Kristin, I wonder if the people who want to bundle the TikTok ban along with new powers to police all kinds of other U.S.-based media, I wonder if at the end of the day they actually don't want to ban TikTok, but they realize how popular the ban is. So this is the landing spot to say, oh, yeah, absolutely, I want to cut that off, and let's do these other things, knowing it'll make it much harder to get through Congress.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And we see the government do this time and time again. Look at what happened with the Patriot Act. It was passed with great fanfare from both sides of the aisle, and now it's routinely used to spy on American citizens, often by liberals, to spy on their political enemies. This is what the federal government does. It grows and grows and grows, and it gives all kinds of legislation misleading names that people can get around and get excited about, and then the opposite ends up happening.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. We'll be back soon, though. Okay, Kristin, you've recently written on the unintended consequences around the growth of AI. I have to admit I'm not scared of it, but should I be?
Well, AI terrifies me. Some experts are saying that the suggested 6-month pause on AI development doesn't even go far enough. I was just reading before we went on air a Fox News article about one expert who said if we don't shut down AI completely, the human race is going to be wiped out. So this is scary stuff. I think that society will be changed more over the next 10 years than it has changed over the last 50 years just because of AI. And these changes, we haven't even comprehended what this means yet. I mean, think about just the workforce, which is what I wrote about in The Hill. You are going to see all kinds of laptop class workers like writers, even artists, computer programmers, human resource officers, all being replaced by machines that can do these jobs better, faster, and more efficiently. Strangely enough, it'll be the blue-collar workers, people who do their jobs with their hands, painters, carpenters, hairdressers, plumbers. These are going to be the people who likely have the most job security when AI becomes more popular. So we're about to see a huge change in our society, and I personally fear that a lot of these changes are going to be quite negative.
Phil, I don't think software has to be that advanced to do my job a lot better than I do, for example, but I think you look at the history of the world and technology, while often initially met with a lot of fear, makes us happier, healthier, wealthier, etc. What do you see when you look at ChatGPT and other AI systems?
I see positive things, but I listened to Elon Musk and Steve Wozniak, one of the co-founders of Apple. They were very clear. The challenge is not the technology, it's the mission that it's been given to do. And this reminds me of Stanley Kubrick's famous film, Space Odyssey 2001. And if you recall, there was a computer called HAL 9000. Right. And HAL 9000 thought the human astronauts were trying to divert the mission. So what he was going to do, the computer, is get rid of those astronauts. They were finally able to dislodge it by taking out his circuits. But that's the big challenge, the mission that they are given.
Okay, I think new tools tend to add value, but I think we also have to realize that the rest of the world is not going to cooperate if we say we don't want to advance. I also, Kristin, we talked in the first segment about this massive debt the U.S. government has taken on. Can we really ever fund this massive debt? Can our society really advance if we don't embrace productivity-enhancing tools? Don't we need to hit the accelerator on productivity if we want to be a more prosperous society, if we want to be able to pay our bills?
Yes, and unfortunately, we probably are not going to be able to stop the development of AI because, as you mentioned, other nations are not going to abide by the same rules that we are. We're basically in an arms race for AI right now across the globe. I just worry about what the societal impacts of this technology will be. You will have people who will essentially spend their entire lives looking at screens and losing touch with reality, with the real world, with real relationships, and that scares me. So we do need to have conversations in this country about what the ethical use for this technology is. But no, we certainly can't stop the development. That's not realistic.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks. We'll be back in just a moment to talk about beach brawls, shootings, overdoses.